So talking about technologies that can be deployed in the region. So there is already a number of interesting developments happening. So fortunately, more and more people, more industries, there is a great awareness about sustainability topic and about green energy. On one hand, we have technologies that can help to generate green electrons or clean energy. On the other hand, we have energy efficiency solutions. And so I would like to highlight a few interesting examples and case studies, especially in particular coming from startups and SMEs, from small companies who are innovating and would like to become, of course, regional players and eventually global players. So the first company that I wanted to highlight is on the energy storage side. So even though energy storage, of course, is not the generation and it's not particularly on the energy saving side, but energy storage will be very critical both in Singapore and in the region in ensuring the energy transition from the traditional power plants to the decentralized plants and to the microgrids. So for the microgrids, we need all these new solutions in the energy storage. And apart from lithium batteries, there is a local player which is currently producing flow batteries. Redox flow batteries, which is a different technology from traditional batteries that we use in the phones or even in the electric cars, which are specifically tailored to the microgrid size batteries and can last longer, more environmentally friendly, and also cheaper on a bigger scale. So there is an interesting innovation coming from the energy storage angle. On the digital side of things, there is also a number of companies working both how it started that many of the current startups or companies, they started with a simple analytic tools, for example, to monitor energy consumption in the buildings, in the industrial sites, and slowly adding on to their services and to their solutions, making sure that their solution encompasses also smart grids. So for example, starting from a simple analytics and giving insights to integrating different energy sources, be it, for example, solar panels on the building, plus combining maybe some power generation on site and partially purchasing from the grid itself, plus the integrated energy storage solution. So all of this needs to be managed properly. And of course, digital solutions, provided by these startups help a lot in this case. So we see a number of local companies, as well as companies coming from overseas, from Europe, from the US to the region, who are providing such services, which is important again to achieve ultimate energy savings. There's another interesting technology that I wanted to highlight specifically on the green building side. So it's especially in Asia, in Singapore, and in the neighboring countries, one of the major source of energy consumption is HVAC. It's basically our air conditioning systems, which consume a lot of electricity. So there are a number of companies that are coming with the artificial intelligence programs and platforms that can help building owners and facility managers to optimize the use of aircon. So just by doing simple optimization, I mean, it sounds simple, but of course there is a lot of technologies behind. You can already achieve up to 20 to 30% of energy savings for buildings. So just by doing AC optimization. There is, of course, a number of companies in the region who are playing in the field of mobility. So as you know, that electromobility is very rapidly becoming a reality. And there are a number of companies who are also playing in this field. So for example, there is also a local startup which is providing wireless robot charging. So before this wireless charging will become readily available to the cars and users on the road, currently these systems deployed in the factories and more in the industrial settings, where robots can be charged in the warehouse, or be it again in some factory settings, charged automatically through the wireless charging. So again, that helps to improve efficiency, to decrease costs, and eventually again leads to the greener economy. We have a number of solutions which help to optimize also traffic management or commuting for people. So again, one of the interesting examples and local examples in Singapore is the company which is providing on-demand bus services. So for example, instead of taking your own personal car to go to your workplace, for example, for some locations which might be not easily accessible by the public transport for whatever reason. So people have an option to, people organization can leverage this, again, online service, online platform to order bus. So as you can see, this problem is very complex, but it's addressed from different players, be it energy storage solutions, be it digital solution for microgrids, be it just analytics or optimization of aircon systems, as well as public transport and in general electromobility systems that can also, play their role in this energy transition. Hydropower, of course, been around for some time, and again, it's relatively clean, I would say, but it causes a number of other issues which are not directly related to the CO2 emissions. So, for example, usually building dams to build your hydropower plant usually requires a lot of land, and these lands again might harm the local nature or disrupt some local communities. So usually when we're talking about hydropower plants, it's not that much the conversation about clean energy as much as the impact on the local ecosystem and whether it makes sense to build it in a specific location. So again, for just again ballparking, but for bigger countries with a lot of water resources and with a lot of land which might not be claimed by people or which might not harm the environment, indeed it might be a clean solution. But again, unfortunately, hydropower is still very limited to an extent that a country should have enough water flow, enough rivers, and the place to install it without, again, disrupting the local ecosystems too much. So I'm pretty sure that hydropower plants will be, constructed into the future, but I'm pretty sure that it will still play a relatively small part in the general picture of energy. So talking about bottlenecks, I would address probably two parts. First of all is the business expansion of smaller companies like startups and SMEs who are, entering Singapore, entering Southeast Asia, entering these Asian markets. And in the second part, probably I'll address the question of corporate partners and how big organizations, established companies, trying to become greener, trying to become more sustainable. So talking about startups who are coming to Asia and expanding their clean tech businesses to Singapore or to Southeast Asian countries. So there are two major roadblocks or two major challenges that most of them face. The first one is, of course, on the financing side, because usually, of course, any market expansion takes resources and money. And unlike most of the digital solutions, like in the B2C industry, so energy startups and clean tech startups, they're usually capital intensive, meaning that they involve either some equipment or capex, and it's not always easy for a startup or for a small company to finance such expansion, entering new markets. So which requires them to find local investors or local partners who can support such move. So that's the first challenge on the financial side. And of course, there is a number of vehicles and number of ways how to solve it. For example, in Singapore, there is a number of innovation challenges and co-innovation challenges that are ongoing in collaboration with government agencies or corporate partners. And some startups can tap on these opportunities and to get either grants or some financial support for their products. So again, for talking about clean tech industry, it's quite important to get this project money in to kickstart some of your operations in the new country. The second challenge and the second bottleneck for clean tech startups expanding to Singapore, to Asia, is availability of test beds or sites, or basically looking for new clients. Because again, it's not always easy to find your first one or two clients who will want to work with you, so that other players out there in the market will also follow the lead and will trust to use your solution. So in this case, Singapore plays an important role because Singapore has a very established and very open mind in terms of the infrastructure. And this infrastructure works as a test bed. So this is a term that's widely used here in Singapore. And what it means is that a startup coming with their technology, with their product, with their solution, they can deploy this product in one of these test beds, which is a real site, which usually belongs either to to the corporate partner or to the government or to some university and showcase the solution that it's working in the real life situation to other partners in the region, so that they can pick up the pace and start expanding from there. So this is on the availability of testbed side. Now, when we're talking about established corporate partners and companies who already doing business for a number of years, and currently they're thinking how to become more sustainable, how to run business in a greener way. So in this case, they face, I would say, three roadblocks. The first one is when you're doing your core business, it is hard to understand what can you do to become more sustainable, because again, people who are not from the energy industry per se or not from clean tech, sometimes they don't have internal expertise on how to even not clear what to do. So in this case, the solution is to go to a consultants or to the centers of innovations or even to the government agencies to see what are the players in the ecosystem that can support you in identifying what can be done and in the impactful manner, and also which will not cost too much of your resources. The second thing for the corporate partners, as soon as you understand what you want to do and where you're going to source these solutions, it's also very hard to understand how to implement it efficiently within your big organization, within your existing processes. So in this case, there are also a number of instruments that some of the corporate partners are using currently in Singapore. To name a few, some partners opening open innovation calls where they put upfront a problem statement, and startups and innovators and solution providers from all around the world can apply for this challenge, and also basically provide the solution to this corporate partner. Of course, there are other ways how corporate partners, sometimes they're investing in a startup, sometimes they're working as a testbed partners for a startup to try the solution. So that's partially solves the problem of how to find it and how to implement it in your organization. And the last one is how to make sure that even after you tested a specific solution, for example, again, if we're talking about HVAC optimization, your aircon optimization. So for example, you tested it on one building, but then you need to deploy it across your whole portfolio on hundreds of buildings or several hundred buildings. So you also need to manage it internally with all your stakeholders who should understand why you're doing it, what's the importance. So this is already an internal kitchen and internal processes on how to explain your internal stakeholders why it's important and why do you need to scale it, on the whole organization and maybe even to different countries.